Ready to go.
We're good.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the workshop of the County Commissioners for this Monday. First thing is we have a tour of our jail. So we are going to start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will immediately be leaving, and I'm going to anticipate anywhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours we'll be back here. And so probably around 3 to 3:30 we'll be back here in live. So if you all would stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Gentlemen, we can go carpool in the cars downstairs and over to our jail.
We're live.
Okay, welcome back. It is Tuesday. We are back from our jail tour. Pretty enlightening when you actually get to go view it in person instead of just talking about it. So anyway, on our agenda next, we're going to go over the Employee Handbook. Gentlemen, I think Shak brought this to us, it was about a month ago when we were here till 7:30 that evening. This was one of the things that we kind of reviewed. So I believe Phaedra and Billy put this together, Don, right, with the changes. Do you want to have them come in here and they can present to us the changes? Or
Yeah, or I have the email that kind of summarizes what
okay.
was, and the sections are highlighted here. If I can get this to change format here. So the first item, section 3.2.4, Sheriff's Office uses 160 hours of their work for the formula. So in other words, it was based in excess of 171 hours of work in a week period. Sheriff's Office used 160 hours.
So I remember that, and I asked so they only work 40 hours a week. They don't, everything else goes to overtime instead of FLSA. So are they working more because they're 24/7?
Yeah.
As far as, so they're still compensated at 40 hours, because we were compensated at 53 or 52 or 53 hours a week before we went into overtime.
Yeah. So 40 hours for them is my understanding.
And that complies with the FLSA?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's, okay. Paydays are okay. That should have been changed, yep. Okay.
And then section 4.4.1, these are the hours. It says need to be indicated, as that is what we use in Cassell to calculate. So I think prior to this, they were using the old formula, but with Cassell, they're using these hours.
So they kept,
Yeah, there she is.
Sit
I don't
down
have to
and turn on the
translate.
mic.
Good job, Billy.
Because I think the last time we went over this, we were way late before I think everybody had went home by the time we got to this.
so they calculate, they don't start calculating overtime until they hit 160 hours. In the handbook, it says 170.
171, yeah.
That's what it used to be, the sheriff at some point changed it to 160. So when they hit 161, then it starts calculating overtime. They don't get overtime until they hit that 160. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's why we want to change the handbook to make it correct. They don't do it at 171, they do it at 160 now.
Okay.
And then this gives you the maximum number of hours of vacation time that you have, based on the number of years that you've worked at the county. And Billy has a note here that Road and Bridge has several people that accumulate more than the maximum. So what's supposed to happen is you hit the maximum and you either use it or lose it.
Correct.
You don't just keep accumulating, because there is a maximum.
So is this just in addition to, Billy, or
Which section are we on?
We're on section 4.4
4.1
vacation.
on vacation, maximum vacation days.
Yeah, I think what we want to make sure is so right now when you hit, okay, so if you're a 1 to 5 year person, you should only accumulate 160 hours. That will depend on if you're an 8-hour or 7-hour or 6-hour person, basically. This one, I think, goes by the 8 hours.
Okay,
We have a chart that shows whether you're a 6-hour, 7-hour, 8-hour, how much you should max out at. The road and bridge department doesn't max out. I can kind of tell you why, but I don't know if you want to go into all of that. Why they don't stop accumulating. Does that make sense? So,
accumulating hours or,
yeah, well, so when we hit, well, right now I'm in the 6 to 10 years. So when I get 200 hours on the books, I can't earn anymore unless I use some.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is for everybody in the county. That's the way it should be. The road and bridge department they have several people that have more than, I want to explain it right. So they have more on the books than they should be accumulating because of an agreement Melissa had made with them. At this time of year, they work 10-hour days. At this time of year, they're supposed to work 8-hour days. And we're supposed to change in our computer system for the 10 hours that they accumulate more, and for the 8 hours they accumulate less, but then we never adjust the amount that they get to accumulate.
So they don't reach a maximum?
No, they're not they're going over the max that the handbook says, and I don't know how we can fix it.
Well, wouldn't it make sense if it's hours? It does, if you're working on a 10-hour schedule, then each day you're gone is 10 hours. And if you're on the 8-hour schedule, each day is 8 hours. It's just hours, not days.
Well, that's correct, but the hours they get to, it's just really.
because everybody's working, if they're an 8-hour day, it's
They're still
2,080
40 hours
hours
a week.
annually, right?
Correct.
The hours,
Hours
yeah, it's
is-
It's just
2,080
hours.
hours. So I guess I'm confused, or I'm not.
I'm not explaining it right.
I don't think Road and Bridge switches anymore either.
Yes, well, they don't switch their time.
They're on
We
strict,
have to switch them in the computer.
but they're on strictly
because they're
4,
supposed to be switching their time.
Are they on
No.
410?
they're strictly 410s now,
Right.
year round.
I understand that.
Which is still 2,080 hours
So
a
it's,
year.
it's
the
hours
same.
for hours, so it shouldn't matter on days for days or 8-hour days or 10-hour days.
Accumulate or anything,
Right.
yeah.
Because these are all based on a 40-hour work week if you go by the 8-hour
Correct,
day.
correct.
But Melissa was gone in 2019, so
Well, she did a memo
whatever
in
that
20
agreement was shouldn't even carry over.
Was,
She did a memo in 2014 that
Oh.
changed some of their,
Billy, do you have a copy of
Well-
that memo somewhere?
Well, this
I-
says
I'd
this
love
was
to use-
adopted February 19th, 2019. So 18, 17, 15,
It
shouldn't
may,
matter.
it may be though that what's in the memo is not in the handbook. I don't know what the memo says, but maybe the memo goes outside the handbook. I don't know.
So I get what you're saying, Don. It's the same hours.
Hours are hours. Whether they're in an 8-hour day or a
10-hour
10-hour day, or if you have 280 hours, then whatever days or fraction of days. I don't know, I wasn't here, so.
Mm-mm.
You want to put that on Elmo?
So what is changing? What are you asking for the change, or this is what you're asking to be added?
well, I think Well, for this, I think what we want to do is go strictly to hours, not days, I think, to make it, and then so make it hours, okay, so you get a max of 200 hours if you work from 6 to 10 years, but not let anybody go over that max. So in other words, everybody's going to follow the handbook. If you are,
So you, from 6 to 10 years, you would earn 5 weeks of vacation time.
well, the
And
max
that's-
you can get is 25 days,
Right,
which is
that's what I'm
200
saying.
hours. So it didn't have the 200 hours in there before, it just had days, and I think it was confusing for people. We want to kind of make it hours, because
So-
when we
so
calculate
we're-
in the computer, it's hours.
Okay.
So strictly just adding hours and eliminating the days.
Correct, correct.
That's the way our state deal, it's all figured in hours. It's not figured in days and stuff.
Right.
You got so many hours of comp time, you got so many hours of vacation time, so many hours of,
Yeah, our sick
This,
is
that, and
unlimited. You can earn as much as you want on sick, but it's the vacation.
right?
So 25 or 200 hours of exchange, that's all you can accumulate.
For
Anybody
6
across
to
the
10
board.
years, yes.
Okay.
So once you
So-
hit that in the computer, it stops calculating. But our problem with the road and bridge is we have to adjust them every time, because for some reason they don't stop calculating because of whatever. We have to change. I've never quite understood it, why we have to change the computer.
So then 11th through the 15th. Or
Then you
11
get
year to
240 hours, and then you
15th
get
year.
280, and then 320, and then 360 is the max that anybody should have on the books.
So, I mean, I see a couple options. Certainly, it's not in the handbook at this point. I think it would probably make sense to chat with Rob about this, because I looked at this and I don't quite understand what they're trying to accomplish with this.
So, Billy, these are changes, recommended changes from your side is in the green?
Correct.
Okay.
And I don't even know if we need to keep the 20 days in there, if that's going to help people, but we need to tell them that it's 160 hours is what 25 days is for an 8-hour person, and it depends on if you're 8 hours, 7 hours, or 6 hours, because if it's,
And shouldn't we add a 10-hour day in there?
I think if we took the days out, it would not
Just
be
leave it.
accusing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just,
That'd help.
leave it
just
all
hours. If,
just leave it
if
as
you work
hours.
6 hours a day, then,
Yeah.
Just do away with all the day stuff and
It's just-
put
Right.
it down by hours, yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you work a 10-hour day, you're going to take 10 hours of vacation that day.
Correct,
To
yeah.
accommodate it. That's what we did. If we took off a shift, it was 24 hours.
Yeah.
yeah, because that's what your shift is.
That's what our
Yeah.
shift is. So their shifts are just 10 hours.
10 hours.
I mean,
So the max that anybody's gonna, well, I kind of see what you're saying, if the 10 hours, is it gonna calculate?
I mean, the thing is, if they're working a 40-hour week, ultimately, they take 4 days and they're still going to get a full 5 days off, because that 5th day they're off anyway.
Correct.
I don't quite understand why the calculation would be different.
I don't know either.
Well, if you're, so my little chart here is if you work 8 hours, your max is 160. If you work 10 hours, the max does go up to 200 because of the way it's,
I
I
don't
think that-
understand why it would go
Well,
up, though.
they must be figuring the 10 hours at 5 days a week then, instead of 4 days a week.
I might
Mhm.
have, yeah.
I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, I think the
That
days
makes
is what got everybody confused.
Confused.
And Road and Bridge was on 8
10
hours in the
a day, they're
winter
only
and 10
working
hours
4
in the
days a
summer,
week, and
and they're just going by
we were having to switch
days.
back and forth.
but are they working 8-hour days now?
Not
No, they
anymore.
haven't for quite
They're
some
strictly
time.
410.
They're 10
Strictly 14.
410s, yeah.
Well, so it should be pretty
So
simple.
we really
should
shouldn't
be,
have to be switching back and forth.
we should be able to keep everybody on the same thing per this schedule, and it will be the same. I mean, for whether you're working 8 hours or 10 hours.
Because it's 40, basically 40 hours.
Well,
I
it's
mean, you
based
work-
on a 2,080-hour week, because if you go 7 hours and 6 hours, then it's gonna be reduced.
Correct. To
And-
1560 and 17, what, I don't know what it is. So basically, we want to change everything to hours.
And so I don't, I'm a little unclear on whether that email was a memo or just informal correspondence. I mean, I don't see that, I'm not aware of that ever being approved by anybody or incorporated into the handbook. I don't know. I wasn't here. But
None of us
Well, there's
were
no
here.
signatures on it.
yeah, I mean,
None of us were here
it
now.
certainly doesn't look very official to me. My thought would be, I think at this point, unless something was done in a commissioners meeting,
I
This-
don't believe there was.
this employee handbook, as far as I'm concerned, is what governs our hours.
Right.
And and so I think that my advice to you guys would be, moving forward, let's go ahead and adopt these changes, but then this is what's going to apply to everybody, because that's really how it should be, unless it indicates otherwise. And there's nothing in this employee handbook that says we're going to do this arrangement for one portion of the county and then this
Correct.
arrangement for road and bridge. This is the governing document.
We can't write in a handbook or policy for every
This doesn't
department.
make no sense to me at all.
Right. It should be the same for
No,
everybody.
it doesn't.
So, I mean,
So basically, we're going to go by the handbook, but the road and bridge, the ones that have, excuse me, more than the allowed accrual, we'll let them work it down, but not accrue anymore. Does that make sense?
yeah, well, I think at this point, the problem you're going to run into is we can't take hours now that people
Right,
Now,
correct.
they've
Put 'em
already
up.
got
Yeah, I
it.
wouldn't
Let
do
'em
that,
take
but
the
not-
hours and then just tell them now, from now on, you gotta
Exactly.
hold it to this. Or
Yeah, my advice at this point would be if somebody's over the max, then that's where they're at, and then.
But they can't go any farther.
They can't go any further.
Right. Excuse me, goodness.
But if they are over right now, we need to allow them to go ahead and
Well,
take that time.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah, we're not taking anything away, it's just they're only gonna earn.
They're just going to, when they get to this max, they'll stop.
I mean, in other words, if you've got a 4-year employee who's at 240 hours, they've got to get it back down to 159
So
before they start.
if we're
earning.
gonna go with that, I mean, do you wanna take the word day out of even an 8-hour, it's just an 8-hour shift to a total of the 2,080 hours annually? I mean, I don't know, because now I'm looking at this and reading this, and I would argue that, well, wait a minute, I'm working a 10-hour day.
Right.
Or change it to a 40-hour work week.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's
think
what we
it
need
It would
to.
be a 40-hour work
Then
week,
you-
because
then it don't matter if it's 10 hours, if it's 8 hours.
Instead of an 8 hours, just a
Yeah.
40-hour work week, a 30-hour work week, 35-hour
Yep.
work week.
Yep.
If you're gonna
Yeah.
do that, it all needs to change, because if you're gonna do that, and I'm not real clear on this, but I would argue the point that, well, wait a minute, I'm working a 10-hour day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I understand what you're saying, because I think that was part of the mentality for that memo, that they were working a 10-hour day. They couldn't understand that it was a 40-hour week, like we work a
Right.
40-hour week.
Correct, they're just doing it in 4 days instead of 5.
Correct. So
I
instead
don't
of
know, this
8-hour
is
workday, we're
probably-
going to make it a 40-hour work week.
Well, and that may have been the
Yeah.
product of the shifts changing too. It sounds like maybe at some point the road department worked 8-hour shifts for part of the year and
They
10 hour.
did in
they
the
did
beginning,
in
but
the-
then they just kind of slid into
Yeah.
10-hour days period. That's all they do now.
They used to do the 5 days a week in the wintertime
Yeah.
when they were plowing and stuff and everything,
Yeah.
and in the summertime and the spring, they'd go to 10-hour
10
shifts.
hours,
Yeah.
but now it's strictly 10-hour days.
With more daylight, they work 10s.
Sure.
And now, if they need to plow snow, they come in and work, then they're on comp
Yeah,
time.
overtime, yeah.
Overtime, yeah.
So the only thing we may want to look at is, I don't know in their job descriptions what it talks about in terms of shifts. And so just making sure that that, I mean, probably in the job descriptions for the road department, they should reflect the 40-hour work week. Because, I mean, 40 hours is 40 hours, so either they're working 8-hour days, 5 days a week. I mean, because it sounds like there's some variance
But
between
you
summer
only-
and
This is
winter.
only based on the base. You don't earn extra for overtime or comp time.
My only concern is if the road department folks are working 8-hour days in the summer and they're earning a certain amount of vacation, and then vacation hours based on the 8-hour day, and then you move to the winter, then it's gonna screw
Well, they
everything
have
up.
us messing, that's what's wrong with the computer system, because we, when the spring starts, when the daylight savings time changes, we have to go on the computer and change the way they accumulate, which in my mind, it shouldn't. It should be the 40-hour week. So that's how it's being able to accumulate more, because when they're on their 10 hours, we let them accumulate 5 hours instead of 4, like we do. But then when they're supposed to be on their 8 hours, they're still accumulating the 5 because it's not changing. It's just really
Well, and
kind of convoluted
The
right
problem
now.
you run into is you're having people accumulating more hours in the winter that then they can apply to what in essence is an 8-hour week in the summer, so there's a huge benefit
Correct.
there.
And that's how they're getting to that over the max.
So we just need to be sure that we align what's in the handbook
It's just
with
hours.
the job descriptions to be sure that the job descriptions match.
Have you matched the job description to make sure we're okay with that? I mean,
I'll take a look at them. Virginia was updating them just recently, but I haven't actually looked at them.
My
I don't
advice
know
would,
that,
because the hours make sense.
Yeah, just take the
Yeah.
days
Take
out, because
days
that's what's
totally out, not an
confusing.
8-hour day. It's just got to be hours.
okay,
So it should be they accumulate. If a 7-hour day, they're going to only
it's
accumulate.
a 40-hour week, 35-hour week, or
Yeah.
30-hour week, and this is what they'll accumulate.
That makes more logic to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
you accumulate vacation based on the hours,
Hours
right?
worked.
Correct.
So it doesn't matter how many days. If you only work 2 hours a day, if you get your 20 hours in a month, you get X amount of vacation out of that.
Right.
Well, except
If you work 80 hours in a week, you get X amount of.
But
hours.
30 hours would be the cutoff, 30-hour weeks
Yes.
for the
For the
accrual of the
vacation.
Right.
benefits.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Okay. The next one is pretty easy, quarter-hour increments. I don't have any issue with that.
I don't think,
We've just allowed it, so
yeah.
I just wanted to make the handbook match to,
Quarter hour instead of half hour.
yeah.
And then section 4.8. Oh. Bereavement, funeral leave. Yellow was what it
Yellow
was
is what we
before.
have now. I mean, it was originally what the green is. Melissa changed it to the yellow, but we've had some requests and, whatever. So we thought we'd just bring it back to you guys, see what you think, whether we keep it or... I believe we have somebody that still uses the old, thinks that they shouldn't use their sick leave. There's a lot of people that don't have sick leave that use as they earn.
So right now, if they don't have any sick leave, they just have to
They
take it off
don't, they have to
unpaid.
take vacation or without pay.
So yellow is what we have. You want to
What
get
we
rid
have
of it
currently, yes.
and put the green.
Green is what we had previously that we're just kind of filling you guys out on. Just because we've had a lot of people come to us and ask.
I think it was something that would be a good fringe benefit to the employees of Montezuma County, where they're underpaid and overworked now, so we could at least,
Yeah, hopefully they're not having.
yeah,
Yes. I mean,
yeah,
so you're saying that employees may be granted.
may be granted, so it would have to
Correct.
come to the.
So who's the determination of the may?
The supervisor.
I would think it would be the department head.
Employees may be granted up to 5 working days. Paid funeral leave to attend funeral. So you're saying that would come off of their vacation?
No, it would just be
It's an additional
like a
5.
In
gratuity,
addition to the,
like just 5 free days, up to 5 free days. So basically, they get paid.
It's a pretty narrow, I mean, it's a pretty narrow group of folks that we're talking about. I mean, we're not talking about friends, or we're talking
Yeah.
about
No, it's
immediate
gotta be
family.
like your,
Mhm.
and maybe it should read that 5 working days in a calendar year or something, so that they're not going to 20 funerals. Somebody couldn't abuse it that way.
yeah, true, but, yeah, that's true. But they can only use it for specific,
I wonder if there's a way
relationship.
we could combine the two, where we did something along the lines of, you got 5 days of funeral leave per year, and then, if you needed to take additional bereavement leave and you had sick leave to dedicate to that, you could do that. I mean, that would be one way we could structure it. I mean, that would allow for, because people do fall on
Oh, yeah.
hard times, and certainly, I can appreciate, just as an employee here, you have a parent die, or 2 parents in a year, which isn't entirely unusual.
Yeah.
It might offer some folks an out to dedicate that sick leave. And it really wouldn't necessarily cost the county anything additional. They've already accumulated the sick leave
Right.
if they have it. That might be something you could think about. It's really just a matter of what you want to do.
Just they may use an additional 5 days of their sick leave.
Hmm.
You actually could conceivably, just leave it as it is now with both these sections in. And that would cover it. You'd get 5 days of funeral leave, and you'd get up to 5 days of sick leave if you had it and you needed it for the funeral.
I'm only seeing this would really only come into play as if you were a brand new employee, right? That doesn't have any sick time. Like, say you've been here a month, you wouldn't have any time.
so you're basically saying if they don't have sick leave, then they can have.
Well, you
I
also
don't
have
know,
situations where people have used their sick leave for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
for
You get some kind of a
legitimate sick
terminal
reasons.
illness that you need
Yeah.
extended treatment for, and somebody could exhaust their sick leave. For instance, if I needed to,
But
or
if you
one
say
of us
only
had
new
to
people
undergo
coming in,
cancer
that wouldn't be
treatment
fair to,
tomorrow.
that would
Yeah.
really open up a can of,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you to do some more homework for me, because I don't know what do any other counties do, or do they even have bereavement leave anymore?
I can do some checking. I think there are a few out there. A while back, I did some checking on it, but, we
As a
could.
state employee, we have 5 days a year that we can use
For
for
bereavement?
bereavement, yeah.
So in other words, if you only want to take a couple, then you still have 3
Right.
later on if you need it,
Yeah.
or
And well,
whatever.
and it's all done by hours. Again, it's 40 hours, and
Right.
That's
you
what
can
I'm
take
saying.
Use it how you need
2.5
to.
days of it, you can
Maybe,
take
yeah, 20
whatever.
hours. or-
Yeah.
So Joel, when you say
Maybe
bereavement,
4.
when you say bereavement leave for the state, are you talking about, is it more along the lines of what here is defined as funeral leave, or would you use your sick leave for your bereavement with the state? Do you know?
No, we have both.
Okay,
We have bereavement and sick leave
understood.
in the state.
Hmm. Has this affected anybody in the last year or 2 years?
Yeah,
Hmm.
we've had a few people call because it was in the handbook. I don't remember when it changed.
To use their sick leave?
Probably
But if they don't have sick leave,
2018.
that's,
If they don't have any sick leave, then they've got to take either vacation, which a lot of people don't have that either because, you know, you have those employees that earn, take, earn, take, earn, take. They have to take leave without pay in order to attend a funeral or whatever. And that's why we was just kind of bringing it back to the table, because we've had a lot of people come up and say they wanted bereavement leave, but we don't have bereavement leave. We have to take sick leave, and then we don't have sick leave, so.
I would think 5 days a year would be pretty good. I
Just
understand
limit
there's-
it to 5 days a year.
Yeah, I
I think
understand
it's
there's
hours.
other.
I think Joel's correct. I think if you're gonna go to hours, you should make it all hours.
Yeah.
Because it is
Do that.
not out of the ordinary that what you do lose 2 family members in a
Right.
year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
not,
And I don't want somebody to have to choose whether they have to stay at work and feed their family or go to a family funeral.
Yeah,
so I think the hours makes
So
more
change
sense
it
to
to
me.
40 hours instead of.
Yeah, because they may need just 1 day, or they may need a
Correct.
day and a half, and, I mean, I don't,
Oh,
What does
yeah.
that mean?
they may be back in a half a day.
Yep.
it's one of those Mike's
Mine's
dying.
Turning red.
The only problem
Usually
with,
that's battery.
the only problem we're gonna have if we go to hours is it'll just have to reflect for the
Whether it
different,
40 hours.
for the different, well, except that if you have a 30-hour-a-week employee,
be, about 30 hours.
then you're only allowed 30 hours, or 35, and you're only allowed 35. Just so we're.
We
But
can
they're
stipulate
only
that in
working-
there, yeah.
It still only affects them if they're that day, it's only 6 hours for them, it doesn't.
Correct. But if we say 40 hours and I'm a 30-hour person, well, okay, I can take 40 hours, which would be, what, extra days? I mean, you got to think like not that I would
I
do
think if
that,
you,
but-
I think if you left it, I think if you left it at days here, it would be okay because
Because it says
if you're a-
5 working
if you're a
days, which
30
is,
Because they could go take 30 hours out of one week and 10 hours out of the next week if they needed it for,
well, but if you have it as 5 days, a day for a 30-hour-a-week employee is 6
yeah,
hours.
because it says working days.
A
So my
day
working day
for
is 8
A
hours.
40-hour-a-week
Somebody might be
employee is 8
7,
hours.
somebody might be 6.
And so technically, if you say 5 working days, you're basically giving them a week.
Can you just check, can you bring yours in tomorrow, we'll look at it? and read
Some
it,
other
and then
counties,
Just check with a couple other counties, even just check locally at the hospital here, see what they do, see what some other people are doing, because I'm not, I get the purpose of a new employee not having any hours of anything.
right.
I mean, what if you're here for 2 weeks or a month, you don't have,
Well, they can't take vacation for 6 months, so
correct, so
they
they're
earn-
gonna be,
sick leave. And then if they join our sick bank, they give up 2 of their days, so they're
yeah, so
short
I
there
agree with
too.
you, we don't wanna, I mean, we don't wanna hurt them, but
right.
I'd like to be consistent with something else. I'm not, it's been such a long time since I've read any bereavement leave things that I'm not. Just check,
Okay.
please. Okay, Don, next.
Would be item 5.2 for retirement.
Yeah, so we just signed a new contract and we changed it from, after 6 months, start contributing, we do it immediately. As soon as they start their first paycheck, we start contributing.
Okay,
And then the other part, 5.2.1, the loans are allowed once per year. We have people that refinance 3 or 4 times a year. It is just, it's a lot of work for payroll, and it's just,
so this is added.
so we allow them a loan, we allow them loans, but then we allow them to refinance whenever they want to. And we wanted stop it to like one loan per year and then refinance once during that year. And we want to use the 12-month period measured forward, which means like in April, if they took out a loan, they wouldn't be able to take it until April of the next year instead of like January to December, because otherwise they can get 2 or 3 in there depending on when they took the loan out.
Do
And
we have
Why are we giving out loans?
loans on retirement? Is
I
my
don't know,
question.
it's
I
been
mean,
like that as long as I can remember.
I guess I'm just gonna ask,
the
and
guys over
hopefully
here-
we are,
Said they could do that.
Well, what if they quit before they pay it back?
exactly.
Well, they're allowed, and I think this is what happens. They have to take a minimum of $2,500, but they cannot take more than half of what's in their retirement. So once they leave, whatever they owe, they still have half in there. They're going to take it.
So if they leave before the
Yeah.
loan period, then it's covered through their retirement.
Correct, because they still have the other half in there, which will
Right.
pay for the half that they took. Yeah. Which means they have no
I-
retirement, but you know.
I think
that-
we should educate our people more on what retirement really is and what it's there for. I don't think,
Not a savings account?
it's not a savings account. This is a retirement account. It should be,
Well, so many people don't make enough to
To make
But
it,
this
yeah.
is-
use it for a savings account.
but this is not. Hmm. Wow.
And we can change our contract every year. I mean, next year, we just signed one, but next year we can change it again if need be. But right now, we want to cut back on the amount of loans that they're taking and mostly the amount that they refinance. Some of them do it like every 2 or 3 months, they refinance their loan. And it's not helping them, I'm sorry, because when you refinance your loan, your original loan, it doesn't like stretch it out. It's whatever the original loan is, it just adds to that, so it adds to your payment. You don't get an extension in time. It's the original, when you take out the loan, it's the original time that you're going to pay it off. That just adds to the amount of payment that you're making a month, because
Right.
it just goes up.
Is there an interest on this loan?
Yeah, it's very small. I don't know what it is because I've not ever done it, but from what I understand, it's a small interest compared to what you would get in the outside. But I really honestly don't know how much it is.
And these guys been talking to the loan sharks, man. Pay the big and have to refinance the small,
Well, once they refinance, it doesn't give them extra time. It just
No.
makes their payment bigger.
It's just their payment is larger.
Yeah,
'cause
because they
they're-
still have to pay it off in the original amount of time that they took the loan out.
It's only a matter of time before Carmine and Guido show up.
Maybe if they couldn't refinance them all the time, maybe it'd defer from taking the loans to start with. They knew they couldn't just keep coming in and coming in and coming in.
Well, and ultimately, I guess, I mean, there's a question too of how much duty do we have to protect people from themselves?
True. They're doing it to themselves, yeah.
I mean, I've never worked any place that allowed you to borrow money on your retirement.
I have, but they've only allowed it for medical, emergency medical, or to buy a house or schooling. That's all that I've ever known that you could take it out for.
So this is actually,
This is just, I think you can just do it for whatever.
Casinos all did reopen.
So if we approve this, how many people are gonna get caught not being able to refinance and get hurt?
We have actually quite a few people that have loans out. Phaedra's not here, so she would be able to tell me, but I know there's quite a few. And we have,
I think we need to give them, if we do this, we need to give them a warning period.
Right.
Well, we could basically, if everything else is okay, we could approve that and then say in
First of the year?
3
For
months.
any
Or yeah, first of the
future-
year,
First of the year?
first of the year, this is coming,
Yeah.
so. I don't know, to me, this is still,
Yeah.
I'm not sure why you'd wanna borrow money on a retirement program. And
Donut money. Short on donut money.
Well, I think that's where we failed in our education is people living within their means.
Yep.
That's the real issue, and that's what, but you're right, how do we protect them from themselves?
Yeah.
But that's what we're doing.
But we've
We're
got a
all
lot
in-
of, we've got a lot of people working for us right here that can't live on what we're paying them, so you gotta bring that into a factor too.
Mhm.
They
Can
may
we-
have to borrow that money to pay their rent or something to.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have any idea of what our hourly rate would be if it's calculated out? Do you have a clue? I mean, are we paying them above $15 an hour, 16 an hour average?
oh, average, yeah,
Oh,
gosh,
I know it'd be tough, but
yeah. Well, it depends. I mean, we did our pay thing, but depends on the department, because we did an average of 3 different counties and
yeah.
what everybody's getting paid now and what the average was for the 3 counties.
It's just such a wide range in
It's-
salaries,
yeah,
though.
there's
I mean,
just too
ultimately,
many.
there's a lot of folks who are down at that.
There's a lot, well, I know of one for sure, she's been here 20-some years, she makes 17 something an hour. So, I mean, it's tough, yeah. So,
And we are gonna start losing them people if we don't start doing something,
Which,
because the job opportunities out there
oh, they're
are.
getting to be really good, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Find somebody to replace it.
Pedro was telling me there's a place in Durango that's giving $10,000 bonuses to start coming to work for
Yeah.
them.
Who's that?
no, and that's why the pay plan is so critical, is
Yeah.
so that we
Mhm.
can get them caught up and get
Yep.
them going. Which I think we're
Crazy.
close. It's just gonna be a
Yeah.
matter of, that's gonna then be up to us to reach into our pockets, boys.
Yep.
Okay, next.
One more item is
Are you guys good with that? Just that one be kind
Yeah.
of like a,
Right.
it's coming, but give them, like you said, maybe.
So on the
just first of
second one,
year.
we'll put something like effective January 1, 2022, loans are allowed once per year,
Yes.
blah, blah, blah.
That sounds
Okay.
reasonable.
That way it's in the handbook and they can see it, but it doesn't be effective until, so they can plan.
And certainly, I'm sure you would do this, but just send out an email as well, just letting
Oh, yeah.
everybody know that, hey, this handbook's
Yeah,
been
well, once
updated
these
and here are
get
the changes,
approved,
here are the changes.
Then I would send out the email with, because I want to get everybody to sign the back page again, because it's been a
So then
while.
let's make you've got a little bit of research to do on the bereavement
Right.
leave for us. So let's get those to us and then let's put this on the agenda for not next week, but the following week. Would that give you enough time, Billy?
Yeah,
So then that way these are in there and that
The
the
31st.
potential of that one coming,
oh, not the 31st,
uh,
7th of September?
let's see, the 24th, yeah. Is
yeah,
that
next Tuesday.
does that sound good?
Yeah.
Be September 7th.
To notify the people that these changes are coming?
Okay.
No, we should.
And then the last one.
That way we can look at the bereavement and then,
The last one was the separation of employment. We just wanted to add, once employment has ended, you will be paid at your current hourly rate, any vacation and comp time you have on the books. Because a lot of people, for some reason, think you lose everything when you leave. I know, I can see the look on your face. It's like, so we just wanted in the handbook that, okay, you do get paid out your vacation and comp, because I get phone calls all the time. we're gonna pay out their vacation. Well, yeah, it's a benefit that they've earned.
Okay.
I mean, wherever I've gone, that's the way it's been. So it's just
So you're just adding
just
that
a
in.
just adding that,
Clarification for you.
yeah, exactly, yeah. Because I seriously get lots of calls about what they actually get when they leave. That was the last one.
That was it?
That's too easy.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here this time. I apologize, last time we were way late.
No, that's okay. Well, Kathy come in, they're talking about the handbook, and I'm like, oh. So,
Okay,
alrighty, and I'll, check on the bereavement.
okay.
Thank you, Miss Bill.
And then we'll set it for September 7th, you said?
Yeah. Here's Daddy Shaq with that mouth.
Okay. I think that was all on our agenda. Gentlemen, is there anything else that you need to bring forward for the
No,
union?
No, not on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, with that, then, I think we will close this meeting out at,
Did we want to talk about our MOU, or are we?
yeah,
Are
I'm
we
sorry.
clear on that?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so
Um,
we do have the MOU with 2210 Cortez that we had gone over before. One of the things that was pending on that was a decision on how the county was going to ensure that it was receiving 50% of the profits for the fiber that was being farmed out to the third parties. We had talked about a couple different options at our last time. One option was a full-blown audit by an auditor. Another option was something as simple as 2210 Cortez disclosing monthly financial reports to us, and then we would probably take those to some third party to look those over to be sure that everything was clear. So at this point, it's really up for you guys to make a decision on how you want to handle that. And so those are really your two options at this point.
Okay. And then you'll have that to bring forward tomorrow for us. Obviously, we can't make a decision today, but we can look at
Put
those.
it in old business for tomorrow.
And we can put it under unfinished business for tomorrow. Okay?
And then I think the only other thing in that MOU that I have a note on is looking at the term. We had talked about the 25-year term
Mhm.
with the annual review, and so that's another thing that we'll have to make a decision on. We certainly can't decide today, but my recollection was that you guys were comfortable with the longer term, but with the periodic reviews. And as we've talked about before, this is an MOU, and so you guys can withdraw at
can-
any time.
correct.
Just because it has a 25-year term, if you get 5 or 7 years in and you decide that for whatever reason you want to go a different direction, then that's certainly within your purview. The same goes for 2210 Cortez. They can get 3 years in and withdraw. As we talked about before, if that were to happen, the county's contracts with the third-party service providers. So, in other words, if 2210 Cortez secures a contract with farmers to use our fiber, those contracts are generally 25-year contracts. And so if 2210 Cortez were to leave after 3 or 4 years, or if we decided that we wanted to terminate our MOU with 2210 Cortez, that agreement between county and farmers would still
Still
remain.
exists, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it
Okay.
doesn't hurt the provider at all.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'll
we
have
can
that.
make- Yeah, if you get that to us, and then we can make that decision tomorrow under unfinished business. And then
Okay.
I'll also announce that September 7th, we'll look at the handbook revisions for approval.
And then just so I'm clear on the schedule, we do have a meeting scheduled for next week. I know when I first came that there was sort of a tradition, if it was the 5th Tuesday of the month, generally there was not a meeting, but
That
just
was
so.
prior to me starting on this
Okay.
board.
Okay.
And I'll be honest with you, through COVID, we
There was a meeting every.
we had to have, there was no, so really, gentlemen, I'll leave it back up to you guys. It's kind of up to you. If it's a fifth week, they historically in the past had taken it off, so there's only a few months out of the year that would affect. We did change our meetings to Tuesdays because we felt like that gave us a lot more work days, because there are a lot of Mondays that are holidays, which then you just kicked, I think it was like 10 or 11 more weeks out of the year that you didn't get anything done, and that was a big reason for changing meeting dates to Tuesdays. So think about it. Look at the calendars. I think it's only, well, actually August would be one,
Mhm.
and I think July would be one. But there's not that many of them, so it's really up to you guys, whatever you think. But we can discuss that tomorrow. Look at it and see what it does.
Okay,
Fair enough.
sounds good.
Okay. Well, with that, then we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you, guys.